Welcome, Ben, to the Warzone Sports Network. This is our NFC South preview. Mike on the mic, hit that intro, baby. Let's do
me on the radio, coming to your locale. Got into the third round, better bring the smoke now. Step into the war zone. 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 Friday night war zone. Friday night war zone. Step into the 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 war zone. Friday night war zone. Friday night war zone.
We're going to ignore the fact that right when I do the intro for the first time ever, my Google Home decides to start making weird-ass noises. But anyway, we are here. I'm Alex Robson, hosting up a little bit today with this awesome crew that I got with me. I got my man Mike on the mic running things behind the scenes. I got Joe Scurto, Jet fan. And then, of course, I got the Stone Cold Steve Austin to my Dwayne The Rock Johnson, my man, my best friend and rival, Brian Bolstered. Gentlemen, how are we doing today? How are we feeling?
I'm feeling good, Alex, and I'm ready for this NFC South preview, and I'm glad I got these group of people on the screen for it.
I am too. It is going to be a lot of fun, very, very interesting. But let's go ahead. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into it. We're going to first kick this thing off with the ATL. We're kicking it off with the Atlanta Falcons. They did finish last place in the division, and that's how we do things. We start with the worst and go on forward. Mike, key departures and key additions, hit me with it.
Here they are. Let me get this out the way. So for the Falcons, pretty busy offseason. They lost Levi Mac, obviously. He was on his way out. Ricardo Allen, a safety for them for a while, left the team. The Keanu Neal and Kazi, the safeties, both went to Dallas, and they're teaming up there in Dallas. And, of course, the big one, and this one will put a smile on Bolster's face, Julio Jones, heading to the Tennessee Titans to join their explosive offense. But the key additions, Mike Davis obviously coming to the backfield. I put Fabian Monroe down here. I don't know how involved he's going to be, but he was pretty involved in that Washington defense. And then Kyle Pitts, Alex Robson's BFFL.
Look right here. That's what it's all about right there. Chomp, chomp, baby. Maybe the greatest tight end to ever come out of the University of Florida. But, gentlemen, how are we feeling about the Atlanta Falcons this year? It's a little bit weird. Another year has been added on to the lifespan of Matt Ryan. He's getting even older, getting close to that 40-year-old mark. I'm going to start with Joe Scurto because I just want to go ahead and start off with a fellow Jet fan. No bias whatsoever, I promise. Joe Scurto, what are you feeling about the Atlanta Falcons?
I mean, it's going to be another year of good offense and bad defense to me. And I think the biggest addition out of all of them is Arthur Smith, to be honest with you. I think that's in the right direction. It didn't work out last year in terms of coaching. Dan Quinn clearly ran his course, had a good ride, but you could see that was fading really quickly. I believe they were the 18th offense, kind of not really Falcons-like, in the 29th defense. And that's something that's going to continue to be a tough thing for them to really fix. And it's not going to be fixed anytime soon. I think they probably have one of the worst secondaries in the league, don't have much pass rush. So they're going to really have to depend on their offense. And I think for that, they will be able to compete because I believe their offense is still going to be very good. And I think it gets better with Arthur Smith. And I really, really like Arthur Smith in Atlanta. So they're going to be competitive. They won't win many games, but again, I mean, they're going to have to rely heavily on their offense, just like they did last year. And we saw it. They were in a lot of games last year, and they blew most of them. There were so many games that fell on their lap, and they couldn't capitalize, and that has a lot to say about their defense. So even if they improve slightly, I think they could have a chance to win another 2 or 3 games, but obviously that story is untold.
100% agree on that one. I think it's still the motto is still true, gentlemen. Defense wins championships, and that is the biggest thing the Atlanta Falcons lack. Brian Bolster, what are you thinking about ATL this year?
Yeah, along the similar lines. I mean, the defense is going to continue to be bad. We mentioned on the key people leaving, both safeties, and they didn't exactly bring in big names, at least, to fill those positions. Grady Jarrett is really nice. on their defensive line, and they have Dante Fowler Jr. It's going to be interesting to see what he can bring. And then the biggest addition, I'll agree with Joe Scurto, is Arthur Smith. If he can do what he did with Ryan Tannehill, with Matt Ryan, then we're talking about the next offensive star coach in the league. I'm just not quite sure about that because we saw Tannehill coming out of the Adam Gase cloud of death and was more in his prime in terms of age. Matt Ryan is sliding out of that. And I know you love Kyle Pitts, but he is not going to be able to replace Julio Jones. It's just not going to happen, even if he was a great rookie tight end, which basically does not happen. All these great rookie tight ends that come in with all the hype in the world always seem to disappoint. Not that they have bad seasons, but just 1,000 yards in a season, even with the additional game, is really pretty unlikely. To me, if he ends up with 750 yards, that'd be a great year for a rookie tight end.
Yeah, that void of Julio is going to be tough to fill up, but I'm sure you as a Titans fan are hyped to have that guy on your roster. Mike, real quick, what are you thinking about Atlanta?
Yeah, they summed it up pretty well. I mean, there's not much I can add to them as a team. I will point this out, and I will paint a picture for you guys and for Russell Gage, Kyle Pitts, and Calvin Ridley's fantasy value especially, even Mike Davis a little bit. Matthew Ryan is 4,300 yards away from hitting his 60K mark. So if this team is really bad after week 10, you know what's going to happen. They are going to start slinging that thing around to make sure he gets to that mark. I don't know how soon they plan on moving on from Matt Ryan, but he's got to feel like this may be a last shot.
Could be. Age sneaks up on everybody except for Tom Brady, it seems. Let's go ahead and get into these. I believe it's the highlight players next.
Highlight player, Alex. The highlight.
Alrighty.
I'll go first since I'm on the left side. I chose Russell Gage just because he's my sneaky fantasy pick of the year. I'm a big fan of his. He has some crazy stat line in the games that he has started. And in Atlanta, and I don't think Russell Gage is going to be this good, but in Atlanta, there's always been this trio, it seems like. The Julio Jones, Roddy White, Tony Gonzalez. The Austin Hooper, when he had his one big year, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Now you got your Calvin Ridley and your Kyle Pitts. Who's going to be that third guy from Matt Ryan? I think it's going to be Russell Gage, Alex.
Gotcha. All right. Bolster, looks like you're next on the list. Who you got as your highlight player for the Falcons?
Yeah, I went A.J. Terrell. Rookie quarterback for them last year out of Clemson. A much maligned pick, although I think he had a fairly good rookie season. They're going to need him to take a big jump in year 2 because, like we had all mentioned at the top, the defense is not expected to be good, and particularly in the secondary. He is the key for them to be able to compete in this division.
I 100% agree. Need a big jump out of him. Joe Scurto, you went back towards the offense with their accusation from Carolina, Big Mike Davis.
Yeah, I like this addition a lot. He finally seeks a deal, well-deserved, near 650 yards last year, 6 touchdowns, averaged about 4 yards a carry and close to 50 yards a game. I mean, that's very efficient. And I think if they could establish the run game, that means your defense is on the field less. And that means that they have a better opportunity to win football games. So I really like this addition. I really, truly think that Davis could be a 3-down back. It's not guaranteed, but what he showed last year, I think it's worth the move. Put a little less pressure off Matt Ryan. We know he's not getting any younger, and put more pressure off of that very weak defense. So I really like the move with Mike Davis.
I agree, too. And if you know me, you know exactly what I was going with my highlight player. Come on now. It's my man, Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of my University of Florida Gators. Absolutely adore him. Brian Bolster, you're 100% right. Big, crazy years out of tight ends just don't happen that often. But I think in terms of if anybody has the potential to do that, it's Kyle Pitts with his incredible athleticism and his ability to just be a mismatch. You can't put a safety on him because he's too big. You can't put a linebacker on him because he's too fast. Like, he is truly a wide receiver tight end hybrid. He is an insane prospect. I really think he's going to be a superstar in the NFL, and he needs to be a really big target in year 1 because of the no Julio Jones now for the Atlanta Falcons.
I love it. I'm so surprised by your choice, Alex. So surprised.
Predictability. Come on now. I'm a Gator. I gotta pick probably the best prospect of Dan Mullen's era. Let's go ahead and move on to our next team, even though I dread it. I really, really do. because next up on our list is none other than the Carolina Panthers. Year 2 under the regime of Matt Rule and Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator and head coach. Mike on the mic. Key additions and key departures. Talk to me.
I'm Mike, and I'm on the mic. And here's the key additions and key departures for the Carolina Panthers. Went 5-11 last year. Came in third in the division. Key departures, Curtis Samuel. Obviously a big part of this offense, especially when you see a guy like CMC get hurt. Curtis Samuel becomes that kind of Swiss Army knife for them. Quan Short, he's on his way out. Teddy Bridgewater heading to Denver. Obviously, we just talked about Mike Davis going to Atlanta. And Joe Scurto's light just departed. And then we got key additions. Key additions for the Panthers, Sam Darnold and Dan Arnold. Say that 10 times fast. Hassan Reddick coming over from the Cardinals, Denzel Perryman, and J.C. Horn. That's your key additions and key departures for the Carolina Panthers.
I think Carolina could be an interesting team this year. It really does weigh on the shoulders of Sam Darnold. How does he recover from 3 bad years in New York? There's a lot of controversy around why he had 3 bad years in New York, of course, but we've had that debate way too many times on this show, as me, a Jet fan, and Brian Bolstered, a Sam Darnold fan, so we won't get into that today. We've done it enough. But I'll start with Brian Bolster on this one because I know he wants to go at it. He wants to talk about his guy, the quote, future GOAT, Sam Darnold. Bolster, how you feeling about Sammy D and the Panthers?
Hey, I feel good. Sam Darnold, he's the biggest addition on that list. And, you know, I don't want to get ahead with my key additions, my highlight players, but I'll just give you a little preview. This is the difference in the situations. People are so pumped that Sam Darnold has a legitimate NFL players around him that they've been hyping up the Carolina Panthers like they have all-time weapons. And guess who they have? They have DJ Moore. It's like a decent player. And Robbie the String Being Anderson, who the Jets let go. That's like, oh, they have Robbie Anderson. They're stacked. Sam Darnold weapons. Like, hey,
Oh, God.
it's true. Hey, this team, they're a young team. They've got Matt Rule. They got Joe Brady. I like the trajectory of where they're heading. They still need time to grow, and I'll leave it at that.
String Bean Anderson, that is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm going to call him that from now on and love doing it. Thank you for that one, Brian. Mike on the mic, your feelings about the Panthers of North Carolina.
The king of nicknames, Brian Bolstered himself, here on the air. But anyways, I have similar feelings. I feel like the team took a step in the right direction, and they're kind of forming a core that you're going to see them build around. And whether that's going to be with Sam Darnold involved or not involved in future years, they're still built for whenever they do want to go after a quarterback. I think this team is a sneaky team that's going to be in the race for a veteran quarterback that's going to be available in the next offseason. I've been preaching it. Less Russell Wilson, but Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson probably on the move next offseason. Don't count the Panthers out as a landing spot for either one of those guys if Sammy D plays like Sammy D did in New York.
If Aaron Rodgers goes to Carolina, I think a part of hell would freeze over. But that's another debate for another topic. I mixed up my words there. Shut up, everybody. Joe Scurto, our former quarterback, Sam Darnold, is now a Carolina Panther. How does that make you feel about these guys?
I mean, now we get to see. I think it's clear that we knew how bad the Jets were throughout his career. I mean, just look at it. Look at the comparison for his rookie year to what Wilson has at his rookie year. It's not even comparable. I mean, Alex, I think you and I were their starting receivers in 2018. It was that bad. So this is a team that is going to be better this year, but I'm still going to pause, and I still think they're about a year away. I think they have to develop chemistry. This team is very young. Their coaching staff is very young, but the improvement was huge, more so for the defense. This is a defense that was 30th or 29th in 2019. The rule regime comes over. They go all the way down to 18. They drafted every single player, and they drafted all defenders, in that 2020 draft in Rule's first year. You know what they're trying to do. They're trying to establish an identity on the defensive side. They proved it. They moved up 11 spots. I expect them to move up more. I won't give it away, but I think my key addition is going to have a lot to do with that. And for Darnold, he just got to limit the turnovers. I mean, the main weapon he has is Christian McCaffrey. It's clear. He's the best obviously the running back, and he's the best pass catcher on that team. No doubt about it. He's the best player on the team. him alone is going to help Darnold. He's going to be that security blanket. And I also like the addition of Terrace Marshall out of LSU. I think that was a very low-key steal. Not even low-key. I thought that was just a steal in general. So he's got the weapons. The offensive line is still iffy. I still think it's a year away. But if he improves, he keeps his job. If he has another mediocre year, he may be a backup for the rest of his career. So this is a huge, huge year for Sam Darnold. I think he has enough to succeed, though.
Yeah, this is definitely, in my opinion, the prove-it year for Sam, but I'm sure we'll talk about that more on another episode of something else. Right now, we got to get into these highlight players. Mike on the mic, you're probably first on the list. Who is your highlight player for the Carolina Panthers? I see two guys up there. Did you miss the memo? Highlight player.
Yeah. We've been stretching the rules a little bit. I had a coach brought up by Joe Morley on one of these, and then I put Aaron Rodgers as the Broncos highlight player, and then so Tony put a position group, so I'm putting a position group. And it's these two cornerbacks. They're going to be a ton of fun to watch. It's one of my favorite cornerback duos in the league. I feel like they're going to be a yin and yang. J.C. Horn being your like Brendan Browner, physical bruiser style corner, and then Dante Jackson's the flashy, fast guy. I just love watching passionate cornerbacks go out and ball. That's why I was always a big Richard Sherman fan. And I was actually, before the whole Richard Sherman incident, lobbying for Sherman to go to Carolina and join these two. But yeah, those two guys are gonna be a lot of fun to watch and personal favorites of mine.
Gotta say, as a Gator fan, USC may have the best swag in the SEC. With that beautiful black helmet, I really dig that. Now, Brian Bolstered, I believe you are next on the list. And you picked a offensive lineman, I believe. Who is that? I'm terrible to remember names.
Hey, first off, South Carolina is absolutely not USC.
I caught that too.
That is ridiculous. You SEC crazed fan. South Carolina is not USC. So
who the hell is your highlight player?
Let's make sure to get that right. Taylor Moton, their right tackle. They paid him this offseason, 27 years old. In theory, should be just getting into the peak of his abilities. They're going to need him to be big time because this offensive line is the question mark on their offensive unit, obviously outside of the quarterback position. But everybody likes the receivers. We like the running back. Tight end, decent, but we know how important the trenches are. So the offensive line's got to be right. I think he's that building block, and hopefully their newly draft pick rookie, Brady Christensen, can step up in a big way for them because, as much as I believe in Sam Darnold, he's going to need an offensive line, better one than we had with the Jets.
Every quarterback needs an offensive line, and hopefully Sam Darnold will be able to perform with one. Joe Scurto, you picked a guy that terrorized my SEC Gators for a very long time. J.C. Horn is your pick.
Yeah, I mean, this was my top-rated corner in the draft, believe it or not. I really like J.C. Horn. I just think he's the modern-day corner, the lankiness, the athleticism. The interception numbers are down, and people look too much into that. I don't give a damn how many interceptions you have. I mean, if you're not getting interceptions, that most likely means that the wide receivers are not getting the opportunity to get the football. So I really like this kid a lot, and this is just, like I mentioned earlier, a step in the right direction for this defense to improve, and get better and take less pressure off their new quarterback and off their offense, which is kind of up in the air. So love J.C. Horn. I love the pick. I was a bit surprised with the pick, to be honest with you, but now it makes sense. We really know what way Matt Rule is going, and it starts with defense. So I think he's going to have a really good year, to be honest. And I think I'd go far as say with him and Jeremy Chin as well, I think Horn has a chance to win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Ooh, definitely a high potential in my opinion. And you mentioned interception numbers. That doesn't matter. Revis Island was born off of just locking up receivers. And my highlight player is the most well-known on here, Christian McCaffrey. What in the hell are you smoking, Alex Robson? Well, I'll tell you what I'm smoking. Christian McCaffrey had the injury bug last year, and that always is a concern to me. But even in the games he was not healthy, he was healthy, he was still very, very productive. But I want him to bounce back. I want him to bounce back and be the face of this football team because I honestly do think he's going to have to be. And it's not a knock on Sam Darnold, kind of, but I think he's going to have to be there to help him out at least. Because if Sam Darnold wants to succeed in Carolina, he's going to have to lean on Christian McCaffrey. That's not an issue, trust me. When you got the best all-around running back in the NFL, rely on that guy. Throw him the ball 15 times and hand it to him 20. That's fine. You can make a living off of that. So Christian McCaffrey, I know what he's going to do. I know he's going to produce. I just want to see him healthy for a full year. Moving on now. Next team is, I believe, if my memory serves me right, the defending Super Bowl champions. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the board just off of their 11-5 season and wild card to Super Bowl championship run. My man Michael the Mike, you know the drill. Key additions, key departures. What are they? Talk to me about them.
Well, the Jets fans in the room aren't going to like this next graphic. I'm just going to give you guys a warning now. But me and Brian, being Tom Brady fans, are going to like this next graphic. Departures. They all came back. They lost a few backups, minor guys, Joe Haig, or if he's going to make an impact at all. But for the most part, the Buccaneers have the same team as they did last year, just a hell of a lot more chemistry. And for the key additions, Gio Bernard, who I have a feeling Brady's going to use and have fun with throughout the season. Guys, I said it during the offseason, just the sheer fact that they were able to somehow retain all these guys like Shaquille Barrett, Chris Godwin, Levante David, keep them all together on this team. The Buccaneers had the best offseason of all the teams.
It's purely unfair, honestly. I mean, and you mentioned Brady. I love Brady now that he's not in New England. I really don't care. Go win 10 more rings. Go. I do not care anymore. He's out of my division. But Tampa Bay, it's incredible. This is the ultimate run-it-back moment. They're going to take the exact same damn team with the addition of Giovanni Bernard on this roster, who I think is still a solid running back, already into a solid running back room, and they're just going to try and do it again. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If you can do it, go ahead and do it. No doubt in my mind, Tampa Bay is once again a Super Bowl favorite. Joe Scurto, how are you feeling about our old arch nemesis Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trying to make another run for back-to-back?
I mean, it's just scary. They're obviously loaded, and it's crazy enough that I believe the Buccaneers and the Chiefs probably had the two best off seasons. So we might be running it back in that term as well. But yeah, I mean, what they did last year was magical. I mean, obviously we all agree with that. They were 7-5 and they won out after that. They still finished top 7 in offense and defense, and those numbers are going to get like skyrocket up. I think they could have the potential of being a top 3 offense and defense. This defensive unit was very inexperienced. They were very young, and they overperformed massively. Going into last year, we were worried about their defense because of their youth. And man, just hats off to Todd Bowles. He is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. And sometimes guys just are better coordinators. And I think it's not even close who's the best DC. And Todd Bowles has proved that. And just imagine how good they're going to be in another year with him. And now, underrated, Brady's going to have Mike Evans, a healthy Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown, hopefully for 17 games. I don't know how you're going to stop that. So it's not really more I can say that this team is going to absolutely dominate, and they're my pick to win it all again, easily.
Definitely not unfair to say that. I mean, it is unreal what they have done, and I just think they're just going to get better and better. Brian Bolster, how you're holding it together. We talk about the future GOAT, and now we're talking about the forever GOAT, Tom Brady, two guys you absolutely love. How are you feeling over there about the Bucs?
Yeah, I mean, he's found the fountain of youth. There's no reason to try to count him out this year. People have been doing it for too long. Just jump on that Bucs bandwagon because it's going to carry you deep into the playoffs. Like you guys mentioned, they bring everybody back. They had a great offense, a great defense, and I don't see any reason why that can't return, right? We know that they got kind of some hometown deals with Shaquille Barrett, with Levante David, and others. But then also I like their addition in the draft. They got Joe Tryon, an edge rusher from Washington. I think he's going to show up big this year. Some people were a little bit hesitant about their second-round pick, and I'm a little bit interested on your thoughts on it just quickly, just because it was a pick for the future. Quarterback out of Florida, Kyle Trask. And that's kind of an interesting pick considering all the other moves that they've made. So that one stuck out. That was a little bit weird, but for the next year, for 2021, absolutely Super Bowl favorites.
No doubt in my mind that They are easily the favorites because they return literally everybody. And you mentioned Kyle Trask. Everybody knows how much I love my boy Kyle Trask. But he's definitely going to after what I saw in the preseason game anyway, he's going to need some time to kind of grow a little bit. But I don't think Tom Brady's going anywhere anytime soon, at least not after this next season. Mike, you touched on it pretty heavily when we kicked this one off. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just wanted to tell everyone how disappointed I am in myself. From around week 1, I think, even when the Bucs were 7-5, I was obnoxiously backing them, and I backed them through New Orleans. I don't count Washington. Everyone thinks that game was amazing. Washington never led that game. I backed them through New Orleans. I backed them through Green Bay, all the way to the Super Bowl. And then in the Super Bowl, I was like, I don't know. I think Mahomes is just going to be too much. I was dead wrong. I should have just finished that off from week 1 to the Super Bowl and had it. That's what I should have done. So I have regrets. Maybe I should do it this year.
Don't we all? We all have our regrets. Mine's kind of becoming a Jets fan sometimes. Sorry,
I lost friends, Alex. I lost friends. Lifelong friends. We're like, I don't want to be your friend anymore because of how obnoxiously you are supporting this bandwagon.
You can at least say you have friends. Anyway, highlight players for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike on the mic, you're probably first. Yep, as per usual, you got the former LSU Bayou Bengal. Talk to me, man.
Other than guys that wear powder blue in the NFL, this is my favorite player currently actively playing. Devin White. He's a freak of nature. This guy can run with wide receivers, and he could chase down running backs. He's faster than most running backs in the league. Actually, they did like a 40-yard dash contest with receivers, all receivers, small, like Henry Ruggs, Justin Jefferson, and it was, I think, McCole Hardman versus Devin White, and Devin White was keeping up with these guys. So I kind of like crossed it over to the running backs. He'd be a top 15 in speed amongst running backs in the NFL right now, and he's playing linebacker, and he weighs like 240 pounds. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I just love this guy, and I think he's going to be an elite linebacker for years to come.
Definitely was a home run pick by the Buccaneers. Brian Bolstered, you went with Ronald Jones, the running back, in a running back room that is quite full. Give us your take on Ronald Jones.
Yeah, so I think he's the running back that they need to step up to take their team to the next level. Because, believe it or not, they can improve. One area of weakness, and that's right, fight on. One area of weakness was the run game. People seem to have forgotten about that, but they struggled running the football really throughout the entire regular season. Then we all know playoff Lenny kind of came on during the playoffs, but Ronald Jones is their home run hitter. He's more their traditional run game running back, and I think they're going to need him to get through this regular season, take some of the pressure off Tom Brady, make sure he's not taking too many hits. And to me, if they lock down that running game, then there's no stopping them at all.
You can call game over if Ronald Jones hits a home run. And thank you both for teaching me something. I did not know Ronald Jones was a former USC Trojan. But
no. We were talking about the University of South Carolina. We weren't talking about USC.
Shut your face. Next up on the list is Joe Scurto's guy. He went back to the defense. What you got from me, Joe?
It's another young defender who I am extremely high on, and Antoine Winfield Jr., crazy enough, Tom Brady played his father, so that just shows, it's absolutely insane. But he had a very solid rookie year, and when I noticed, he progressively got better, and he had a great game in the Super Bowl, and he's probably the reason why taunting is now a penalty, but that's okay. He made a few big plays within the regular season. He had a few forced fumbles, had an interception, but I think he's going to take the next step. He's really a ball hawk, and you see a guy like Jamal Adams today gets paid $17.5 million. I'll go crazy again. I'm hot takes all over the place. He's going to be a guy who's going to get paid massively because I really do think he's a superstar. So this is just going to be huge. You already talked Devin White being a superstar. They're going to add another superstar. He's only 22 years old, guys. So I'm really excited about Antoine Winfield. I think he takes a step, and he's going to become a Pro Bowl caliber player as soon as this year. So it's just another addition that the Bucs have, and this is why they're absolutely loaded.
Gotta say, that was probably my favorite part of the 2021 season when he threw up the peace sign to Tyreek Hill. But my pick, it's kind of scary because me and Brian Bolster agree on something, that it is Ronald Jones. And basically, I'm going to reiterate a lot of what Brian Bolster said. I think he has to be the guy in this running back room to step up. I know this is a very deep running back room. They have a lot of guys that can get you a lot of plays, but he is the home run hitter, and he is the guy I think they want to lean on because he is going to be mainly the workhorse kind of guy. He's going to be the guy that I believe gets most of the touches, and I believe he's probably the best receiving back out of these guys. And Tom Brady has made one hell of a living with the check down. I mean, and if it works, why not stop? So I think Ronald Jones is definitely a guy that could definitely elevate his game to another level, and I think the Buccaneers would really, really appreciate that. Because like you said, Brian, if they get the running game locked down too, just call game because it's over, ladies and gentlemen, as the great Kenny the Jet Smith said. But back into football, just a quick little reference to basketball there. We're going to finish this one off with the knowledge.
Wait. I got a question first.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any concerns of Tom Brady regression this year?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
No.
Anyone? All right, let's move on to the next one. That's established.
Well, I think it should be a concern every year because the guy's just 45 now. But anyway, I don't think we need to worry about that. Next up, like I said, the Nolans Saints finished first in the division, but didn't get much after that. Mike on the mic, we know the drill at this point. Give me those departures and additions.
Yeah, this is something concerning to look at, and maybe I missed some additions. I'm not sure. I was finishing up this one right before we went on the air. But anyways, key departures, Drew Brees, obviously Hall of Fame, all-time great quarterback in this league. Obviously, we saw him losing the juice last year, and he finally decided, I'm just going to hang it up. And it's been a thing that's been happening for a couple of years. But anyways, moving on. Emmanuel Sanders is also leaving the team. He heading to Buffalo. Jared Cook, another veteran leaving this team, heading to Los Angeles. Trey Hendrickson, big contributor to their defensive front last year. I think he had 13 sacks or 12 sacks. Like a sneakily great season for Trey Hendrickson, a breakout season for him last year. He's going to Cincinnati, made his money. Janoris Jenkins going to hang out with Brian again, just like Julio Jones. Thomas Morstead retired. And then Alex Anzalone, he's been a mainstay in the special teams unit and rotates in with the linebackers, is heading to Detroit. Then the additions, draft pick Peyton Turner, who they got in the first round. And I threw Ian Book on here just because I think that he has an outside shot to be the third stringer.
Outside shot to be the third stringer. I don't know if that's a backhanded compliment or what.
If both those guys fail, he's next in line, which is kind of weird and scary for New Orleans because they've been used to great QB play for all this time.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing New Orleans is going to miss. They're not going to have that savior, that, pardon my French, that saint that they truly had, the New Orleans Saints. So I really do think that New Orleans is going to take a massive step back. I mean, those departures far outweigh the additions, especially when you lose a guy with as much gorgeous hair as Alex Anzalone has.
Right.
I mean, that thing
I was thinking the same
flowing.
thing.
And also, for all you to know, a former Florida Gator, we not only have great football players and great academics, but God almighty, you can have some beautiful hair down there too. Joe Scurto, we're going to start with you on this one. What's your thoughts about the Saints?
I mean, yeah, you said it. They lose their Saint, but I guess that means that they're not going to dominate the regular season and get eliminated in the first round like they always do. But boom, sorry, Saints fans. But yeah, you see departures. They almost have an entire lineup of departures. And the thing is, this was an already deep team, so I still think they're going to be competitive. But, man, they're going to regress a whole lot as well. They're going to need guys to step up. And I'm not sure. I really don't know. I think their defense has to carry them. They were fourth ranked last year. I still think they're going to be around the top 10 for sure. But that offense is not going to be top 12. They're probably going to be top 25. And now with the everything going on with Michael Thomas, I'm even counting that as a departure right now because we don't know what is going on with his situation. He's hurt. He's on Twitter. There's bad blood brewing over there. So I don't know. I still think they're going to be competitive. I don't think they're going to be a disaster. But in terms of what the Saints fans have dealt with over the last over a decade with Brees, it's going to feel like a disaster.
It really will because for so long, Drew Brees has been the guy there, and it's going to be weird seeing a guy like Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston or possibly, like you said, Mike, even Ian Book if he somehow gets a shot. It's going to be weird not seeing number 9 in black playing for the Saints. Brian Bolstered, what is your thoughts on the New Orleans Saints? I about to say someone else, but Raiders, the Saints.
Yeah, don't bring him up.
Yeah, the Saints. So, hey, we mentioned tons of departures, but they're still a really talented team. So I think they're going to be very competitive, but we all know how important the quarterback position is, and they have so many question marks there, to say the least. Losing Drew Brees, that legend, the presence in the locker room, that's going to make a big difference. Then you're going to replace him with two of the bigger question marks in the entire NFL, probably at quarterback. With Jameis Winston, yeah, he's talented, but he's Mr. 30 for 30. Like that you can't just wash that stain off. He's going to need to prove himself for years. And hey, maybe he can. Sean Payton is likely the guy. The offensive line is good. Kamara, Michael Thomas, if he plays, like I get that. But and then Taysom Hill, there's news that he's dropped a bunch of weight. He wants to play more of a traditional role at quarterback. It's just there's so much uncertainty surrounding that position that, at least for me, it's hard to have a really strong opinion about them. Other than they're talented, they'll be competitive, but a high ceiling is really hard to see.
Yeah, and I agree. And you mentioned Taysom Hill losing a lot of weight. It could be he just ate some bad crawfish. We don't know what's happening there. But anyway, y'all never had Louisiana crawfish? Actually, really, really good. Anyway, we're getting on hold. We're going to have a whole other conversation there off the air. But right now we're talking football. Mike on the mic. What have you got on the Saints?
You're killing it right now, Alex. I'm so proud of you. I'm almost crying tears of joy over here. But anyways, yeah, and Brian talked about it briefly, but I think we're really going to find out how great of a coach Sean Payton is this year. If this offense is even top 15, I mean, we got to give him some serious hats off. And I got him as one of the top coaches in the league right now. We'll see what he can do with this depleted roster. I mean, when you look at these departures, those guys aren't just like main players or mainstays in the team. These guys are the whole veteran leadership. Like, everyone's gone. And with Michael Thomas also up in the air, like, Alvin Kamara is it. And speaking of Alvin Kamara, are you guys scared of Alvin Kamara in fantasy football now? Because I am doubling down on Alvin Kamara. Usually when this kind of stuff happens and a star player finds themselves in a really bad offense, I just steer clear because I think it's going to be a disaster. But in this situation, like Brian was saying, the offensive line is still good. The Saints have to go through Alvin Kamara to find any success this year.
I won't be all you, Brian.
Yeah, I definitely want Alvin Kamara. That's for sure. I mean, again, this is kind of weird, but I would expect them to have a good defense and a good offense. I would definitely expect them to have a top 15 offense. I just don't know how much it's going to piece together in wins because you have Jameis Winston potentially at quarterback. But that's it. So Alvin Kamara for me, definitely.
Yeah, I'm all in too. This is going to be like a bottom passing offense, but they're going to be a top tier running offense. And you mix in the PPR, it's through the roof. He's going to be a top 3 running back in fantasy. And I mean, I'm drafting him more than ever because you don't have Brees, you don't have MT. It's all Kamara. So, and like you guys already mentioned, their offensive line is still good. They have an adult calm play still. It's not like their coaches went away. So, I mean, I am buying all the possible stocks of Alvin Kamara that I possibly can.
I think if they keep Michael Thomas, then yes, I'm absolutely buying in on Alvin Kamara. If they lose him, though, I'm a little bit more weary because then he is it. Like, he literally is the only guy on that roster that is truly a superstar. The rest of them are just a bunch of question marks. And as great as the Saints' offensive line is, if they just load up the box on Alvin Kamara, then force Jameis Winston to try and throw the football, which is the biggest question mark in the history of the NFL, Mr. 30 for 30, as Brian mentioned, then I'd be a little bit nervous about that. But I would still probably draft him, just maybe not as like the second best running back as many people. I'd probably take him like 4th or 5th. But still, yeah, I'm taking Alvin Kamara in the first round if I have the opportunity. No doubt in my mind. Now let's move on here real quick to our highlight players for the New Orleans Saints. Mike on the mic. Speaking of the devil, he shall appear. Alvin Kamara.
You want to talk about more? And I see Gardner Johnson and some other receivers that are kind of lower in the depth chart and stuff like this on this graphic. There isn't much to highlight other than, we all agreed not to do quarterbacks other than Alvin Kamara, in my opinion. He's going to be the key to this team's success. Like I said, I think it's a good point that Brian made that this team can still be decent, but who's going to make the play at the end of the game when they need a 2-minute drive put together? Alvin Kamara can't play quarterback. Maybe they'll try him out. You never know. But, Alvin Kamara is the key to this team's entire season. If they want to go above 500, Alvin Kamara's got to have 2,000 total yards.
Yeah, I 100% agree. He's going to be a big focal point. And we go from one superstar of the Saints to the other picked by Brian Bolster. We get Slant Boy out of you. Michael Thomas, what you got?
Yeah, he's going to be the key for the consistency in the passing game, right? Especially two unproven quarterbacks are going to need that safety blanket, that old reliable. If he's gone from the Saints, then all of a sudden you have major question marks at the receiver position as well. I know a key departure was Jared Cook. Like now there's tons of questions in the passing game. You know, previously you would say, okay, well, they could piece it together. Yes, it may not be too terribly deep shots, even though I do think that kind of plays into James Winston's strengths, but also his weakness at the same time. But, you know, Michael Thomas is gone. Now you're talking about, yes, this is going to be a really struggling offense. And that's the only way that maybe you could get me to back off of Alvin Kamara just a little bit. I'm still pretty headstrong with Alvin Kamara, but if Michael Thomas is gone, then the defenses are just going to continue to close down on him.
Yeah, without Michael Thomas, this Saints offense is a lot different. And speaking of Saints offense, Joe Scurto, an interesting pick. The former Volunteer, Marquez Callaway is your pick.
Yeah, it's just mainly because I don't think Thomas is going to be back until maybe November. Callaway is a guy that I just hear about every day. And listen, I don't love buying into the training camp hype, but when you have Traquan Smith and I just noticed they had Chris Hogan on their wide receiver depth chart, you need to point someone else out. And this was a guy who already was easily their number one wide receiver in the first preseason game. Again, it doesn't mean much, but he is listed as their one right now. He only has 3 career starts, but he's a big body. He's athletic. And this is a guy who can just come out of the trenches. We've seen undrafted wide receivers thrive in this league. And I think if he can even get just a little production, maybe 600 yards and 5 touchdowns, that can make a difference for any quarterback. I mean, they just need somebody that they can call their one. I think he's their best bet because I'm not trusting Thomas. This is just speculation. I think he could be a huge sleeper, and I'll even throw that in the fantasy category as well because he's going to get opportunities to catch the ball. Everyone else is inexperienced. They got Troutman at tight end, inexperienced. I already said Traquan Smith over there. He's already banged up. They need to throw it to someone. Callaway has been the guy to surprise. And like I said, I don't think Thomas is going to be back until November, if at all. He might be on a different team. So give me some Marquez Callaway, a little sleeper edition. If he can perform even in the slightest, then it's going to bode kind of okay for this offense that's already in a deep hole.
I dig it. I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about Callaway as well, but I'm going to move over to yet another Florida Gator. Surprise, surprise. CJ Gardner Johnson. He was also called Chauncey Gardner Johnson and Chauncey Gardner Jr. at Florida. He changed his name to think every single year he was at the university, but that's neither here nor there. That's a whole different topic. I really am buying in on this Saints defense because I think it really is what's going to be needed to push them. But with this division that has a lot of weapons that can go deep on you, you're going to need safeties that can make plays on the ball. And Gardner Johnson has proven that he can do that. And not only that, he is a mind game type guy. I love how he gets into receivers' heads. This dude has a swagger about him that I dig. And I think he carries himself with a chip on his shoulder no matter who he's playing. So I think Chauncey Gardner Johnson is a big factor that a lot of people are sleeping on. He has been a solid safety so far throughout his career, but I think he's going to have to elevate his game because this Saints defense is going to have to help this Saints offense find a way to make some plays and get them the ball back in some good areas. And I think Gardner Johnson, with a big year, could help provide that Saint offense with that opportunity.
I like that. That was my favorite choice of all your picks.
That's not hard. I don't make a lot of good ones, I know. Well, that wraps it up. We have been over every single team in the NFC South. It's time for the grand finale, the record predictions for the NFC South with all of us here at the Warzone Sports Network. Mike, go ahead and throw them up, and I will kick it off. I will start from top and go down to the bottom. I got the Bucs at their absolute ceiling being a 15-2 team. Their 2 losses, in my opinion, are the LA Rams and the Buffalo Bills, who I think are both going to be very, very good football teams. 9-8, I got the Saints. I'm kind of on the same platform as Brian Bolster. I think they're going to be just good enough to be solid, but not be good enough to win and get back into the playoffs. At 6-11, I have the Atlanta Falcons. I think they are going to be a offense-focused team, but with no defense help, I just don't see it. And I got the Panthers at 5-12. Now, I know that's not going to be absolutely amazing for Brian Bolster to hear, but 5-12, I think, is going to be a solid number for them. I still think they got about a couple years to go before this team really starts to click. And really, it depends on the development of Sam Darnold. And at this moment, of course, I do not trust Sam Darnold as far as I could throw him, which would barely be a foot because Sam Darnold, I will say, is a big guy. So that is my NFC South record predictions, the absolute ceiling for these teams. Next up, I vote Mike on the mic.
Yeah, I'll go next. Just pay attention to the records because they're not in order. It's easier to just copy and paste those graphics over. So for this one, just pay attention to the records. They're not necessarily in order. Just give everyone a brief. If you're looking at it, you're like, wait a minute, why are the Saints listed at 6-11 in second? They're not. Okay. But anyways, I got the Bucs going 15-2. Also, Alex, we were talking about it before the broadcast. When you look at their schedule, it's actually really easy, which is kind of a robbery, right? And they play only like a handful of really tough teams that you can look at and be like, okay, that's going to be a close game. There might be a trap game in there somewhere, and they go 14-3. But I would be surprised if they went 13-4. That's how easy the schedule is. I got the Saints at 7-10. A lot of people may think that's really low on them. I'm really giving them 7 wins because I believe in Sean Payton to scheme it up. Everything points to this team completely falling off the face of the earth. Reminds me a lot of what happened in New England when Tom Brady left and all the opt-outs and all that. And they somehow survived and got themselves 7 wins. So I got the Saints getting 7 wins. The Panthers at 5-12, guys, I see 8 wins on here. I see 9 wins on here in some slots. They're still very young. They're still very inexperienced. And unless Sam Darnold has a complete turnaround, and I'm not asking for an MVP season, but if he's above average, then I think that this team can win 8, 9, 10 games. But unless if Sam Darnold's anywhere what he was before, this team is still very young, is still very inexperienced. And I expect them to play teams tighter, but still just not quite there for me. And I got the Falcons at 5-12. I think it's the least talented team in the division. The 5 wins solely come from, shootouts versus teams that also have crazy offenses, and they just get the last possession.
100% agree with that. Tony Tucker, you and I are going to have a conversation about what in the hell you're smoking. Brian Bolster, I respect yours a little bit more with 8-9. At least you got them with a losing record. Bolster, go ahead, my man.
Alex, man, you're killing me. You're killing me with this stuff.
That's what I'm here for.
Ceiling for the Panthers is 5-12. When you had the Jets at 8-9. My gosh, man. I respect the fandom. I do respect the fandom, but Lord. I mean, and I get it. Hey, things aren't looking great for Sam Darnold. That's all right. I've got all the stock built up, and I'm going to make, a lot of fake money off of my Sam Darnold stock when he comes back from the ashes this year. But dang, this Panthers team they're going to be competitive. I'm not a big fan of the schedule, but again, I think Sam Darnold bounces back. I don't see an MVP type year. Don't get me wrong. But with that, and I really like the coaching there, I think 8 wins sounds really good. I think 10 would be like insane, but anything less, you're starting to get 5, 6 wins. I think that's a really not a worst case. 5 wins probably is about the worst case scenario for the Panthers this year. But man, that's just crazy to me. That's crazy.
Did you want to talk about the rest of the teams?
The rest of mine. I think the Bucs are going to be good. I think they're going to struggle just a tiny bit more than people think. Don't be surprised if they come out slow out of the gates. Saints, they're going to be a good bad team. They're going to be competitive. They're going to have good numbers in some areas, not get many wins. And then the Falcons, the defense is going to be really bad. 6 wins for them.
All right. I agree with most of those, minus the Carolina thing. But again, debate for another time. I thought we weren't going to have that today, Brian Bolster. Thank you for ruining my plans of having a peaceful stream with you for once. But we're going to move on to a guy that I know will not give me some stuff. Joe Scurto. Yours look far more respectable than 8-9 and 9-8 of the Panthers. Go ahead.
One win difference.
Shut up.
I mean, I'll obviously we got the Buccaneers at 14-3 here. I mean, very well. I think they could be 15-2. The games that you said were the Rams and the Bills, and I also kind of highlighted the Cowboys too. I told you before the stream. Not that I'm high on the Cowboys. Relax, Cowboys fans. Don't get on your high horse. I'm just saying that Brady in his career tends to struggle in those beginning games of the regular season. We saw him botch a game against the Bears last year against Nick Foles, and he forgot the plays. He's going like this, and then he wins the Super Bowl. So I think that's going to be one of those games that he's going to get out of the way with. So I could see that, but I very well could see them winning as they're raising the banner, but a lot obviously riding on that game. But 14-3, I got them there. And then I have the Saints, I believe, at 8-9. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be competitive still. And it just really depends on that quarterback play. We talked about they have a good offensive line. They have a good defense. I like the comparison with the Patriots last year, but I honestly think this is a better team than what the Patriots were last year, given their offensive line, given their defense. Didn't have as much opt-outs. Yes, they lost a lot of players, but they had depth. They had depth because they actually spent money prior to that. So I think the Saints are going to be competitive. Don't write them off. I'm not a huge Sean Payton guy, by the way. And, I mean, this is going to really show how good is Sean Payton. The fact that he only won one Super Bowl, Drew Brees, is a little upsetting. It's disappointing. But let's see what he can do. Can he actually develop a Jameis Winston or a Taysom Hill who's 31 and was just playing special teams only 2 years ago? We'll have to see. With the Panthers, I got them at 7-10. And them and the Falcons, for me, I think they could be better or they could be worse. It really depends. I think out of all these three teams, I wouldn't be surprised if one team really shocked us and made the playoffs. Right now, prediction-wise, I'm not going to make that prediction because I don't see it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what team it will be, but the Panthers are obviously – they're improved, and I think they have a chance to be even better because of their coaching. I'm a huge Matt Rule guy. All aside with the Sam Darnold stuff, Matt Rule is a very, very good coach. Joe Brady is going to get a head coaching job within the next 2 years. They have killed the coaching staff, so I think they're going to give them an opportunity to win a weekly basis. Yes, their schedule is tough, but we'll have to see. And with the Falcons too, Arthur Smith, see what he can do with that offense. Again, I think they're going to be competitive, but their defense is so bad, and a rookie head coach. It doesn't really bode well for them, but they'll be competitive. And at the end of the day, I think all three of those teams, they have an opportunity to really exceed expectations and kind of surprise you. But at the same time, I'm not going to have a lot of expectations.
All right, good stuff, gentlemen. We'll throw that back up so I can go over the Warzone Sports Network overall average for these teams in terms of the record. The Warzone Sports Network, I guess technically our predictions as a group. Buccaneers winning division at 14-3, Saints and Panthers tying for second with 7-10, and then the Falcons being the dud, holding a 5-12 record. Gentlemen, we shoot for under an hour with this, and I think it's because Tony Tucker just talks too much, and now here we are with 53 minutes on the clock. We did very, very well today, gentlemen. Is there any final remarks about any of these NFC South teams?
I got one more thing I want to shout out. The FBT is the football therapist. If you guys want to check him out on Instagram, he sent in his predictions to be on this graphic. If you guys want to be put on this graphic and you're watching this right now, look at how much space there is. Just send them in to us. Warzone Sports Network on Instagram, Mike on the Mike Sports on Instagram, the Robson Sportscast, right? Is that your handle on Instagram? Turn Up the Jets. Brian Bolstered Sports, any of us, send your predictions to us, and we'll get you on this graphic next week. Shout out to the football therapist for doing it. He had the Bucs winning it at 14-3, and the rest of the team stinking. Like all of us do, pretty much.
Honestly, isn't that crazy to think? Just because I think the Buccaneers, they're easily going to sweep this division, in my opinion. I think they're just too good to not do such things against a lot of teams that are either rebuilding or have some issues to fill. Bolster, do you have any final remarks about these teams?
Yeah, hey, just remember, Sam Darnold went 7-6 with the Jets and Adam Gase. 7-6, including the stretch that I believe was 6-2. Just remember that. And hey, I think you should go ahead and put this on the air. If Sam Darnold passes for 25 touchdowns or more, you have to buy a Sam Darnold Panthers jersey.
You would find my body cold and in a grave before I wear anything related to that California bum. Joe Scurto, do you have any final remarks?
I can't wait for September 12th. That's all I have to say. Jets, Panthers. It's just a riot. This is a riot. I like how I'm just kind of behind the scenes. That's what I'm saying. Alex is like, it's like that. Like, you ever see that videos of like the translator, angry translator, Key and Peele? Like that's basically me and Alex. I'm just kind of laid back, and I just let Alex take the cake, and I just let him do his thing. And either way, I mean, Alex is going to be on Sports Force after the weekend, after obviously opening day when Sam Darnold plays Zach Wilson. So that's going to be very, very funny.
I'll either join you in suffering or join you in the celebration. Either way, I'm bringing the booze because I'm going to need it either way. Mike on the mic. Do you have any final remarks?
I've got nothing to add. I just want to piss Tony off and say, Alex, you did better than Tony Tucker.
Well, I don't think you even need to say that. We already know that is the fact.
That's going to hit him. That's going to hit him. He's going to hear this.
Bring it on, Tony Tucker. Let's go to Friday night again. I'm ready for it. Now, Mike on the mic, one last question from you. Go ahead and hit that outro. Thank you for tuning in, everybody.
Wait. I'm going to drop a plug real quick. Tomorrow, Sports Force is dropping tomorrow at its normal time. And then on Thursday, I think we're doing another one of these previews. Not sure which division it is yet. And then Friday Night Wars. Make sure you guys have the subscription button and the notification bell right next to it. All right, Alex, tell me to hit the music again. You dirty dog.
Be on the radio, coming to your locale. Got into the third round, better bring the smoke now. Step into the war zone. 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 Step into